And welcome to today's webinar. It's a new world, how to cultivate your online community. Today's webinar is brought to you by Firespring and presented to you by our Chief Marketing Officer, Angie Kubicek. Angie, thank you so much for joining us this morning and taking the next hour to share all this content with us and share your expertise. We are really excited and looking forward to it. So I'll go ahead and let you take us off.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining. I'm excited to discuss this topic of how to really build relationships with your community and between your campaigns. But before I jump too much into the content for today, I always like to give a quick overview of who Firespring is and what we're about as a company. And Firespring is a marketing, printing, and website and strategic guiding firm to thousands of brands, businesses, and nonprofits all across the country. And we actually service nonprofits in 14 different countries. The bulk of our clients and partners are in the nonprofit space, and we do that through our proprietary mission management platform, where we're helping nonprofits not only power their websites, but see dashboards, do strategic email campaigns, so that way they can connect with their constituents, donors, and supporters in ways that's really efficient for their organization. As a company, we are founded and based in the middle of everywhere, as we like to affectionately call it, but we are in Lincoln, Nebraska, and we have an office in Omaha as well. And we love our home base, we love where we're located, and we are blessed to live in a community where there's been a really tight connection between the nonprofit and the for-profit space. And so we've leveraged a lot of our learnings just from our own personal experiences to then bring that to the products that we offer and the services that we offer, but then also to the content that we're going to go over. So why we are here today is to really learn about how we're going to cultivate a community so the way they're ready to support you. So it's about not always asking for the monetary connections, but it's really about bridging those relationships. So first thing we're going to discuss today is what community stewardship means in an online world, which in today's environment is incredibly important. Being able to have those really strong connections and communication touch points will really help people feel that human connection that we're all kind of yearning for. Then we're going to discuss how to get your board members, volunteers, and donors fired up to be your fundraisers every day, right? It's not just one person's objective to raise those funds. It should be any person that's affiliated with your organization. They should be out there beating the drum for you. Then we'll discuss 10 vital actions to help you cultivate a network that's really excited to support you. Then we'll discuss why a consistent communication plan is essential to making all of this work and be successful. We'll kind of close with some tips on how to generate loyal support past like any specific campaign, and then we'll confer with some Q&A and action steps. I will fair warn you that today's content is a lot. So I will go through some sections very rapidly, other sections I will slow and pause. But as a reminder, you will get this recording. So if you are thinking that I'm sounding like the Micro Machine Man, and if you're too young to know what that is, I'm very sad for you because he was the best at commercials. But if I sound a little too speedy, you will get the recording at the end. So hopefully you can go back and kind of reconnect with that content. But at any point in time today or in the future moments, if you have questions, if you need a little guidance, feel free to reach out to me. I'm active. I would say I'm active on Twitter, but I'm more active on LinkedIn. So if you're looking for someone to respond, feel free to add me on LinkedIn and then hit me up with a private message. I have a lot of people that after these webinars, they either take tips and activate them, or they have questions or need some clarity as they're working on something. And I'm happy to help any way I can to help you hit your mission. So I hope that I am able to connect with you at some point in the future. But all of that said, let's dive into today's content. And what we're really going to be talking about is that time between your campaigns. This is probably one of the most vital parts of your calendar year, and so many people overlook it. This is the perfect time to fill the bucket up of your followers and your supporters. A lot of organizations kind of make the mistake of going really dark and quiet in between their campaigns and fundraising initiatives. But this is a really solid time for you to network and foster your relationships, so that way when it comes to your next campaign, your community will start to feel like they have more skin in the game and they'll want to help you win. So, you know, everyone has different timelines, but think about when your next major fundraiser is going to be. I mean, shoot, it could be Giving Tuesday that's coming up, and hard to believe, I think we're 6 weeks or 8 weeks away from Giving Tuesday. People have their annual appeal, their final end of year campaigns coming out. So maybe your next campaign is really going to be starting for you in November. So I'll use that as our mythological time frame for today as a reference point. But now, between now and that moment is your roadmap. That is your time to really focus on bridging relationships with your constituents. And you might think like 8 weeks isn't that much, but anything you do is better than doing nothing. And so I really want you to think about this in a crawl, walk, jog, run, sprint mentality, right? It takes time to master the art of digital relationship building. So give yourself that grace. But even if you connect with 10 of your supporters over 5 between now and your next appeal, like that's a huge slam dunk. And then watch how those people that you built that relationship with, how they're going to throttle their giving for you over time. So just kind of be mindful of that, and we'll talk about tracking those KPIs, those key performance indicators for you as we go through this presentation. And I want you guys to picture like this long-term impact and what is the change you're trying to generate for your organization. And so this is about transforming your approach to your community, and will have a massive long-term gains for your organization. And so again, right, you can't build Rome in a day, so don't have that be your expectation. And maybe your next event is only 6 weeks away or 8 weeks away, and that's fine. But then what's your next timeline after that? Let's make sure we leverage it, because time can be on your side. And so make sure that you have a game plan prepared for when you're between your campaigns, because then you're going to not feel like you're on your heels or having to start all over. If you can have a rubric set up, it's going to be foundational for your organization. And really what we're trying to do here is build solid relationships that are going to allow you to thrive. And just remember, like, think about your best friend, think about your spouse or partner that you have selected to be in your life. Those relationships didn't just like click overnight, or if they did for you, you're very, very lucky. But for a lot of us, building those really strong relationships take a long time to really kind of connect and resonate, and you can go through anything together. And I want you to think about your supporters in that light, right? You're really trying to get them to be really indebted to your organization. You want them to feel like they are a part of your organization. And that's going to take a little bit of work. So don't expect it to be like, oh, I talked to this person twice and the moon was changed. It takes a little bit, but the more you show that interest in somebody else above your own self, that just goes a long way with your donors and supporters. And you will be surprised at how many organizations don't take this step or don't commit to this step, because we kind of take those relationships for granted a little bit, and time isn't, we usually find a way to excuse our way out of things with time. And if you can do it right, you will leverage your runway that will allow you to just have easier success down the road. Your fundraisers will become less cumbersome because you will have already primed your audience to give to you during this cultivation time frame. So what people are doing in this time period between their events is really investing in your network. It's the world of networking within our communities is what we need to do. And I know right now that's a little cumbersome because we're not able to go take people to lunch. We're not able to host coffee talks, but we can find avenues to do this in the digital space. And we need people to care about the cause. And so we need them to take action when we ask them to advocate, and then they will beat the drum for you and become your advocate. So these are kind of the 3 phases that you need to move your audience through. First, you have to get them to care about the cause. Then you want to have them take action when you ask, and then you want them to just proactively on their own talk about your organization. And there's a lot of really great philosophy out there about getting people to care about the cause. A lot of time, a person's first time give is because of an affiliation to your organization, not because of your organization. So if you can spend and invest some time in those first time donors, you're really going to see them come back in strong regard for that second ask that you have of them. So make sure that you don't just passively assume because someone's given, they're motivated to your organization. There are 7 different motivators on why people give, and most of them are because of an association to somebody else in your organization. And we want to make their primary motivator the cause of your organization. So the goal is to really help people understand how can we get someone to take action. And we are in this digital space right now, And so I'm going to try and talk about our advocates and your donors and your supporters in the phrase of the online space, just because that's the battle most of us are dealing with. And so we need to think about how people behave in the online space. And there's a total psychology about what makes people take action. And so there are three types of people in the online space. The first one is your lurker. This is somebody who loves to watch, they're a voyeur, they will follow your organization, but they are not likely to promote or engage. They just like to be, fly on the wall watching what happens. It's very difficult to move a lurker to the next step, which is supporter. Supporters are people who will like and maybe share a post, but they're more active, more likely to do a passive social engagement. And so your likes, loves, they could potentially comment and they would potentially share, but they're not just going to be primed to necessarily do that unless they really feel something connected and resonated. But our goal is to move your supporters to your advocates. And these are people who are actually going to share content on your behalf. They're going to beat the drum, and they may just proactively on their own talk to their followers about your organization. I will use myself as an example. Angels Among Us is an organization in my community. If you've been a part of any of my webinars, you hear me reference them. I used to be the chairman of their board, have since moved on to other organizations and just kind of like timed out within that organization, but I still speak about them quite frequently in my own social channels. And it's because I still very much so believe in what their mission is about. And so this month, September, is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. And so I've kind of talked about that a lot on my social profiles. And they're not asking me to do that. I just do it because I think they do an amazing job of supporting families going through a very difficult time. And so find out who those people are within your arsenal, and make sure you make those people really know that you are there for them and that you appreciate them and that you care for them. I'm a part of another organization where I'm more of a fringe supporter. So I'm very active. I share their content. I have a very personal connection to the organization. And I raised some money for that organization, and I didn't even really get a thank you, even after I had let them know that this is the amount I had raised for my birthday, and that kind of like turned me off. So make sure that you're very mindful of the people who are trying to beat the drum for you without being asked. And if you make them feel special and cared for, you're really going to see a lot of more potential come out of that organization. And so your focus should really be on making the most of the people that you already have access to. And if you look at the people that you have access to, so the people that follow your organization, then you're going to be able to find those who are your drum beaters. Just know this, about 75 to 80% of your followers are going to be your lurkers. And so don't waste your energy on them, because that is a behavioral psychology piece where most of those people are just lurkers. That's just who they are in the social space. And so really focus on the people who are commenting on your content, sharing your content, or if you do a search on Facebook with your organization's name, who's talking about your organization, and make sure you build a relationship with them, because that'll go a very long way. So how do you go about creating a team of advocates who are just ready to talk to anyone who they can about your organization? The first thing you're going to want to do is do not treat them like an ATM. This is where you're treating them like a transactional purchase, but we're here for relationship building. So you want to make sure that you are making someone feel like you appreciate that human capital that they're willing to lend you. You also want to make sure that you get to know this individual. So do not just make it about your organization. You should know from your top advocates who is what's going on in their life. Do they have children? What do they do for a living? You should know about this person. There's another organization in my community where their data files on their donors is phenomenal, and they do a great job of keeping their records updated, to where when I had my third child, they actually, because I'm connected to them, to some of their staff members on Facebook, they saw that I had a child, and they sent me a congratulations letter. Like, didn't cost them more than a stamp and the cost of sending me a note, but just said, hey, congratulations on your new baby, so excited for you. And just again, it felt very personal, it felt very real, but it was from the organization. And so just being really mindful of those life milestones for your supporters and having that personal touch will make your organization stand out like bar none. And so I'm going to go through these 10 ways to create empathetic, engaged, and responsive community. So This is about not treating your group like an ATM. And again, that first one is getting to know your supporters. So this is where you're going to be profiling your community and figuring out where people are so you can connect with them. Make sure you understand the psychology of giving. Make sure that you think about what's going on within your donors and create segments and personas around those segments. Hold fundraisers to get to know your community. This used to be a lot easier pre-COVID, but now you could do like a 10-person Zoom call. You could have an advocate invite 10 of their friends and do that. I'm actually attending, air quoting, attending an event coming up where they're actually catering food to a house, and one of my friends is hosting, but it's so we can learn about the organization, and they're doing a social distance approved hosting strategy where they're catering food in, they're sending pamphlets and materials, and I thought it was a really smart strategy. So those are ways that you can have fundraisers even in today's pandemic. And then make sure that you're sending out surveys so that way you can understand how people are connected to your organization, and it'll help you understand the battle that you have to get them to move from, you know, a second party affiliation to a primary affiliation to your organization. The second thing you want to do is cultivate that network. So this is this time between the initiatives, and you're going to want to build, rekindle, and maintain your relationships. And so again, you're not asking them for money in this phase. And you want to think about who needs a touch point and how do you want to do it. So think about mass and individual cultivation efforts. I would say your individual, I would think about who are my first time donors and my large donors. I would put a little bit of effort into those. And then I'd also look at who's fallen off as a donor or who gave less as a donor. Those might be groups that you want to go after on a one-to-one basis. And then think about how do I segment out my donors, and then send them mass communications in ways that makes it still feel personalized and tailored to them, but in a way that they're connected. And then just try to reach out to one contact a day. Again, that gives you so much dividend. If it's an hour, half hour, 15 minutes of your time, just saying thank you, ask them how they're doing, let them know you appreciate them. That just goes such a long way for people, and it's so personal that you will be amazed at how that does, like the warm glow people will get from your organization. Communicate regularly. This is one of those moments where I want to pause and say, if you kind of toned me out, like wake up, wake up, wake up, because this is so important to have consistent, regular communication to your audience, so that way they know what to expect from you. Jay Love, the Bloomerang CEO, said this quote, and I think it is so on point. Since loyalty is based upon strong relationships, and relationships grow via proper and regular communications, efforts in this area can provide huge upward surges in loyalty and financial support. And that is so true. Again, think about your own personal relationship. Who are you willing to, like, you know, do bend over backwards for? It's the people that you have that constant communication. And again, it's communication that's a two-way street. So make sure that you're thinking about your communication with your supporters in this way. And so make sure that you have systems in place that'll allow you to communicate regularly, so it isn't something that's incredibly cumbersome. So I would implement a consistent communications path. And things that can really help you with this is marketing automation, where you can communicate with people based on their actions or inactions. Make sure that you're sharing interesting content. And so if you don't find the content that you're posting very engaging or relevant or exciting, your audience definitely won't find it exciting. So make sure that you're watching with how people engage with you as an organization. And if they're not responding well to content you're publishing, think about what you need to change to get people to care about what messages you're putting out there. The next thing you're going to want to do is leverage and advocates to grow. So we know social media is totally an algorithmic game in today's society. However, social media has become more important than ever for you as an organization to communicate and to get people better connected to who you are as a group. So making sure that you have a strong advocate strategy will help you stand out in a crowd. Plus, it's going to help you expand your reach as an organization. So think about ideas to help you grow your supporter crowd. You could email your audience and let them know that you're really trying to get awareness about a certain thing about what your organization supports. So I will use, again, a personal example. Teen Jack is they raise money for pediatric brain cancer research. they are really trying to get some really positive movement. So for them, they've emailed people to be like, hey, can you share this post for us that we put on our Facebook page? Because we need more people from the state of Nebraska to know that we have the highest rate of pediatric cancer in the country. We're one of the worst states for that. And we need people to care about this, which is also then helping fund treatment, a better treatment strategy for kids that have pediatric brain cancer. And so they put out content and they can email their constituents to get them to then share that post and really help spread that message, right? That's a great way to get your supporters and maybe even a couple lurkers to then take action on that post. And then create stories about their involvement so they can showcase them. So a lot of times when we talk about how can people tell your story, have them talk about a personal experience. Why do they care? Why did they get engaged? And then what is their challenge to their network to get them to get you the support you need? So maybe you just need their network to share that person's story. Maybe you want their network to give $10, but create a strategy so it's easy for your advocates to talk about you on your behalf. And then drive invitations to fundraiser events, very similar to what I just spoke about, but how can you put that advocate in control of helping spread the word about your organization? So the next thing we want to do is to humanize your organization. This is really hard for some organizations to want to do because there are a lot of intensely private people that work in the nonprofit space. And one of the hardest things we have to do right now is get out from behind that curtain. We need to bring ourselves forward and we need to put a face to your organization. So we have to get personal, we have to get vulnerable, and we have to kind of get people to have that likability with us. So this is really important that you have somebody on your staff or within your volunteer group who's in it for the long haul that can absolutely become the mouthpiece to your organization. People bond with people, not necessarily organizations. And so if you can put content out there that makes you relatable, makes you real, shows your highs and your lows, it's really going to help people really connect with you. So try to be mindful about not fear mongering, but you just want people to know the really authentic part of your organization. This will build trust, it translates. So you can do this by showcasing your staff, volunteers, your activity within your community. Let them see the faces of those that are benefiting from your organization. Tell a lot of stories to create connections and color around what your cause is all about, and find different ways to tell this story. You could do video, you could do photos. There's a lot of different ways that you can bring those stories to life. And so have fun with it, especially in the social space. And then live streams are a great way to get people to see your organization in action. And then you can do Q&As and other engaging ways with a live to get people to want to kind of have that connection with you. And it makes it easier for people to understand what your organization is doing if they can see it in motion. So having those connection points, especially right now where we aren't able to come to your office, can be a great way to kind of let people see what's happening at the heart of your organization. So we're halfway through, and I kind of want to make sure that we kind of pause on this next step. And the thing I'm going to talk to you about is a little bit about what Firespring can do for you as an organization. And I'm only doing this shameless plug, and it's because times are tough right now. And anything we do on online should be driving people to your website. And if your website isn't really working for you, then you need to get a new website. And I would love it if you chose to explore a relationship with Firespring. But honestly, I don't care. Go find somebody that's going to make you a bangering website that's going to be really killer for you. But that is going to make or break your nonprofit success, specifically now in times where that is the best space we have in real estate we have for telling our organization story, because we aren't able to go and have those one-to-one in-person hangouts and meetings. So we can store videos on our website to really help showcase your story. But if you need help with that storytelling, the communication strategies, any of those things, I would say please consider Firespring, because we know a lot about the nonprofit space. However, if you have a lot of this in lockstep and you're just kind of wanting to know how you can level up your game, we're going to keep going through that, but just kind of wanted to put it out there. If a lot of this sounds overwhelming or daunting, we would be happy to talk to you about potentially being a partner for your organization. But moving back through the content for today, the sixth thing you're going to want to make sure that you're doing is incite action through commitment. So this is a foot in the door technique. And basically the theory is that the first request is the way to get someone to feel emotionally connected to your organization. It gets them to align their personal identity to your organization, which then makes it really hard for them to say no to your second request. It creates this like cognitive dissonance in how they see themselves. So a while ago, there was a bunch of scientists that went out and they picked a topic in the community to test this theory. So they chose safe driving. And so they went door to door and they asked people to put a sticker on their window that said something super simple like drive safe. Then the scientists came back a few weeks later and they said, this is still an issue. We still are, this is the data, we're still not really seeing that this has been solved. Would you mind putting a sign in your yard for us? Like a big tacky yellow pink sign. And what the scientists found is that those that did the sticker found it really hard to say no to putting the sign in their yard. And they say that the correlation is that it was in their brain that they were already aligned to that cause. And so how could they say no to helping like solve the problem? And so you as an organization could do something very similar. So how are you teaming people up with a very small ask to then get them ready to say yes to that big ask? And so you're not asking for them to open their pocketbook, you're asking for their connections, you're asking for them to do something where they're wearing a shirt's color and sharing it. You're asking them to change their profile picture to have maybe some statements around it. But what are the small asks that you can get them to do that make them primed to do the bigger ask, which is maybe the first thing you want them to do is to wear a shirt and take a photo of it and share it on social. That's like, seems like maybe a big ask. So maybe your first ask would just be, would you mind wearing this shirt for us? Right, very small. So think about what is that first small ask that then builds you to that bigger ask. And then you can provide content to your committed volunteers that makes it very easy for them to share it in social media and then tag you in the post to increase your social visibility. And this is a great way to extend your reach within the social channel. So think about how you can apply this theory. I think you'll see huge rewards off of it, especially if you're trying to get access to your supporters network. Then you want to generate loyalty through appreciation. This is by far one of the most underutilized tactics, I think, in this list of 10, which again, kind of blows my mind sometimes, but I think we all get so busy that we forget about the power of a very big thank you. And so one of the top reasons people gave in a Bloomerang study on why they didn't give more than once is because there was a lack of appreciation and they didn't feel like they were thanked appropriately. So that's crazy. Less than 20% of people stick around after their first give because of this lack of appreciation. And that's really, right? That's something we can totally take on. And Claire Axelrod does an amazing job of touting gratitude. But after someone gives to you, you should do a minimum of 3 thank yous in 3 months. And, you know, when in the Bloomerang study that they did, the fourth reason people don't give again is because they don't remember the organization. That kind of was like an arrow in the heart for me. It's like, how do you not remember the organization? And it's because their primary motivator to give wasn't the organization. So if you don't have a consistent plan in place to follow up with those donors, you're in trouble. So how you can avoid this is to segment your supporters so that way you don't give a repeat person a general statement when they already know about the details you're providing, and then shower those first-time donors with love. And so maybe after their first give, you just give them, thank you so much. This donation is helping us create this type of an impact. Then you can follow up with, hey, thank you so much for connecting with our organization. We would love to send you something that tells you a little bit more about what we do and about our mission. Can you provide us with a little bit of information about who you are? If they say no to that second request, now they're going to say, I don't feel like I'm aligning to this organization. So, you know, you have a different challenge to getting that person to be a second time donor. But if they say, yes, absolutely, now they're starting to identify with your organization. And then your third outreach to them would be, thank you so much for giving to our organization and for taking the time to learn about us. We would love to have a connection point with you so we can share with you what our goals are for the upcoming year and see if you're interested in helping with this at all, right? So you could be asking them to share on your behalf. Would you mind wearing this shirt in public? Whatever it is, again, start to make them connect their identity to your organization. And people are really going to comply especially if they're not being asked to give dollars during this time. So make sure that you're really kind of just being appreciative and making sure that you're connecting with people. Some other ways to really generate loyalty is to have your board members assign them people to call. So that way, not only are they hearing from you, but maybe some of your board members, that can go a long way and make people feel very supported and appreciated. And then remind people that you need them, right? Especially right now during a pandemic. Nonprofits can't thrive without the donations and support of individuals, and we know times are tough. So make people know that we appreciate you. We understand you're in a hard time. If you have anything you can give, we would appreciate it. It's going to help us achieve these results. That goes a very long way for different individuals. And then create a sense of indebtedness. So this is where you are giving back to your constituents and supporters. So you want to ask them, you want to give back to them. So how can you give back to the constituents? So this is handwritten letters. You could do a virtual giveaway. Hey, because we've reached this goal, we're able to give away XYZ donation prize. Give a gift that makes you a daily presence in their lives and remind them of what you do. So think about what are things that people need in their household, on their person, that lets you be front and center in front of them. Ask for people to fill out surveys so that way they can give you input and influence. And then if you take their input, then you can put that into action. And then invite them to do online social gatherings and make them feel included. And this one is really important. Sometimes organizations fall victim to, they hang with their own tribe. And so a lot of times, if people aren't very well connected with the organization, or they're just getting to know it, there's a bit of a feeling that you're an outsider. And so making sure that you eliminate the clickiness that people can feel sometimes at nonprofit events or gatherings will go a really long way. So challenge your board members and your key advocates to go around and like work the room when you're able to have an event in person again, but also having them make sure that they are being proactive and making sure that they've talked to X number of people whenever they are in an event. So that way people are like, oh my gosh, this organization is so friendly. They were so welcoming and inviting. Of course I have to support them in whatever they ask me to do. The next thing that you're going to want to do to really work on creating an engaged community is to beef up your social profile. So this is really just rooted in the fact that you need to utilize social media to share your story. And online social media is really kind of throttled in a lot of ways. And so play with the different mediums that you have access to at your fingertips. You want to try and make your organization look as popular as possible. And I know that sounds very eye-rolly, but it is very true. You need to put out content that is going to generate buzz. It makes people take notice. So again, if you think about your social content that you're putting out there, if you feel like it's drab, everyone else feels like it's going to be drab. So make sure that you're having fun with your content. You're being a creator of a story that's going to be engaging, and it's going to draw people to have empathy for your organization. Now that TikTok is going to be owned by Walmart and Oracle, I would say go check that out. The people who have created content on TikTok are telling stories and utilizing that medium in a way that is very entertaining. And the thing we lose sight of a lot of times in social media is that people are there to typically be entertained. They want mindless things to watch, to look at, but when they do feel motivated, they take action. So make sure that you understand the mindset of the user when they are on the various social media channels, and activate and engage them in ways that's going to pull them in. So you need to meet the end user where they're at in their moment. And so the other thing is, make sure you tell people what you need them to do. Please share this post. Please like this post, to help you get that content to be beefed up as much as you possibly can. And then the other thing I would do is, like, social media has two forms of action. You have your active, conscious social media content, and you build that content with the mindset of, I need this piece of content to perform because I invested in it. It's a video. I had people come in to film this. We think it's really compelling and engaging. And then you're going to have your subconscious content, and that's your scroll through content, right? It's still important to put out there because it helps get you that awareness, back of mind consciousness, but you're not necessarily killing yourself to put it out there. That content needs to be fewer and far between, but make sure that you put your activation time into those conscious pieces of content, and then boost that content after about 3 or 4 hours with like a $20 ad spend towards your targeted audience to really help elevate its exposure. That'll go a long way to helping you get that reach and grow your audience and make sure that everyone's seeing what you're putting out there that you really care about. The last thing you want to do to create your engagement within your community is build empathy for your organization. I will say, if you deal with puppies and babies, you're kind of cheating because everyone has empathy for children and cute little animals. However, if you're not one of those organizations, you can still create empathy. You just need to find ways to make people care about what you have going on and what your mission is. And so this is, again, we're having that personal connection. Those humans in the front and forward and not behind the scenes will go a really long way. Make sure that you are being emotional, you're being vulnerable. Have third-party individuals validate what you do as an organization. Have convincing statistics that'll help you go and build that empathy. And then show real-life representations that put a face to your cause, because again, people donate to people, not organizations. And so if you can make people understand how your cause is helping people, that'll go a very, very long way for your organization. So just remember that in order to create an engaging community and to use this runway that you have between your events, it's about cultivating relationships, really trying to increase your brand awareness and getting more people to speak about you. You need to be relevant to what's happening within your community. Make sure your online image, your website and social media channels are really active in a way that sets you up in the best light. Bolster your online image, and then you want to make sure you have goodwill chips that you can cash in, and that's where you're showing your gratitude and investing in those relationships so people then are willing to help you when you're asking for help. So we just went through a ton of content, and I'm sure your head's maybe spinning or you're like, oh, I don't know where to start. So have a kumbaya moment with yourself and think about, what is your bandwidth? Like, how much time do you really have to focus on cultivating your community, and set realistic expectations for yourself. So, and then think about, okay, if I'm going to be meeting with 10 individuals a week on the phone, thanking them, connecting with them, learning about them, understand why you're doing that. So if your goal is to say, okay, I have these 10 first-time donors and my goal is to make them a second-time donor by our next, so that way they engage with our next campaign, set communication plans on how you're going to engage with those 10 people. What does that look like? And then track how many of them actually then became a second-time donor. If it's helping you then elevate how many people are becoming second-time donors, now you've got a strategy that you can take to your board and say, hey, I did a beta test. I tried this out and it worked really, really well. Can we invest in another team member or staff member or volunteer to dedicate time to this? Because I think we can make X more revenue as an organization, which would then help us achieve these goals within our mission. If you can paint that picture for yourself, it'll go such a long way. So make sure that you align this activity to what your organizational objectives are, and make sure you track what those results are going to be. So then you have to think about, like, where are you at within the funnel of relationships within your community? Have you really kind of connected in? Or are you still just kind of friends with your community? And once you understand where you're at, you can start to build a path for building those relationships. And then again, what can you actually commit to? So make it doable. Try to pick one day a week to work on your community cultivation strategy. Give yourself an hour, 2 hours. But then think about, okay, what are your action steps? Always make sure you walk away with to-dos and action steps from that planning, so that way you do have momentum forward. And then make it bite-sized and activate one action item a week, so that way you are seeing that progression forward. But again, what the biggest issue I see for a lot of organizations is they will bite off more than they can chew. And then when it comes to getting activated, they really struggle because they're like, well, this failed. Well, no, the plan didn't fail. You just took on too much too soon. So give yourself that grace so you can build your way into it, and you will be astonished at how powerful your communication strategy will become for your organization. So now that we've kind of closed with all of that, we're going to open up the questions panel. And while Julia is getting the questions ready, I'm going to share a little bit about Firespring. So I spoke about our mission management platform a little bit at the beginning of today's presentation and then at the middle part. But our mission management system is really a one and done shop for you. So it has a content management system with mobile friendly web designs, can do the email marketing registration, event registration, has blogging tools, but we also have this bangering support team that is there to help you every step of the way. So whether we're helping you launch your website, we're helping you rework it, we're helping you with a campaign, they're there every step of the way to answer your questions and to make sure that you're hitting your goals and objectives. And you have a beautiful dashboard that will help you understand, how is my social media campaign performing? How are my posts doing? How's my emails distribution going? So it just gives you that really nice lens into your organization's performance. If your website is not performing for you, you're not able to get people to clearly donate and stay within your website experience, and you're interested in learning more, but if by the end of October, you sign up for a new website, you get 2 months of your website for free. So instead of having to pay the monthly fee, you would get the first 2 months totally free. So if you go to firespring.com/fall, you can get engaged to learn more about our platform, and then to get the 2 months free monthly fee for your organization. And then if all of that's humming just perfectly, just keep learning with us. We have a ton of different content that you can sign up for to keep growing and learning. You can go to firespring.com/webinars. If you really engaged with some of this, I would recommend doing the social media 102. That one really talks about how to leverage your advocates even more specifically. And the other one that I would really recommend attending, if you haven't attended one yet, is the storytelling for impact on your website. Again, your website is going to be your most powerful tool right now. And you can do all the work you want on your social media channels, but if you're pushing people to go to a mediocre website, that's not going to really perform for you. You're going to be kind of hurting yourself at the end of the day because your website isn't going to be set up for your success. So all of that said, also let us know how we did. Let us know how today's content was. If there's a specific topic you're interested in learning about, but that you don't see that we offer, let us know. We're always evolving our webinars and adding new content into the mix. And I'm sure if you're asking for it, others could be asking for it as well. So please let us know. And I appreciate all the feedback we get. That said, Julia, do we have any questions for today?
Hey Angie, thank you so much. One of the questions that we had come in before the webinar today actually was this organization hadn't really done a lot to cultivate their online community or engage with them since the pandemic started. They had only kind of maintained their status as to what they were doing. What is a good start for them, or which outlet of contact would you recommend they start with to start re-engaging with their community online?
Yeah, so I don't know how your email database is performing for you, but I would do a mix of email and direct mail. Direct mail, everyone's at home. People love direct mail. It's physical. And so you could almost do like a relaunch, not, saying that you guys went away, but just saying, we've been still heads down working on our mission. We hope you're doing well. Expect some great things from us, and maybe let them know what you're going to be communicating to them. So you could almost give them a timeline of, hey, we're excited to reconnect with you. Here's what you can be expecting from our organization over the next 6 months, as you're starting to figure out what your new normal is within the pandemic environment. So do that. And then I would say for your top 10% or 5%, I don't know the size of the organization, for those donors, I would do some one-to-one reach out. Hey, how have you guys been? How have you been handling the pandemic? Just wanted to give you a quick updates about what the organization's been up to, and just have a dialogue, right? Everyone loves human connection right now. So make sure that you just invest in a few of those relationships, and then make sure that you have this is your runway to re-engage them, but give yourself a little bit of time. But when you're also be prepared to announce, like, we're going to have this event coming up, we're really excited, and kind of talk about what that event's going to look like. You're not asking for them to buy a table, you're not asking for them to donate, but just share how this event's going to be really cool and a fun thing for them to participate in. And you'll share more information as it gets ready or something.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Angie. That's all the questions I have as of right now. So we'll
Awesome.
follow up with any that come in at the last minute, but otherwise I'll let you go ahead and finish us out.
Cool. Well, again, thank you guys so much for joining today. I really appreciate it. I hope you all got some really great nuggets that you can take and activate into your day-to-day world. Again, if you ever need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. And thank you guys so much for just choosing the career paths that you're in. Nonprofits truly make our world go round, and without you guys, we would all be worse off. So I appreciate that you guys have chosen your path, because you're kind of the backbone to our community. So have a great rest of your day. Have a great week and weekend, and I hope to connect with you all soon.